Hello and welcome to a special 20th anniversary retrospective of Diablo 2. I know this is a departure from my usual videos on Cobalt Forever. I hope you don't mind as I reminisce, talk about the game, my experiences with Diablo 2, and explain why I really think Diablo 2 is the best game of all time, at least for me and perhaps some of you as well. Keep in mind this is kind of off the cuff and I may make mistakes or errors, things of that nature. Please forgive that. I'll do the best that I can to edit it and make it as professional as possible for you. Without further ado, let's get started. The first thing I want to mention is that I played Diablo 1 before Diablo 2. Some people didn't. And I really liked it. I thought Diablo 1 was a great game. I thought it was a fantastic third-person action RPG game. So, around the year 2000, I went to a friend's house to spend the night. I saw I want to say his older brother sitting on their Pentium 3 compact Windows 95 computer. Yes, I remember all that. Playing Diablo 2. Now, I didn't know it was Diablo 2, but I had a suspicion that it was Diablo 2 based on the way it looked, the way it was playing. Finally, I saw Deckard Cain, and I knew it was Diablo 2. He told me this was the next game I was going to buy. He wasn't exactly right. I'd have to wait quite some time to get the game. I knew at that exact moment I really wanted it. And I watched this for an hour or two, maybe longer, until I needed to go and hang out with my friends some more. I was there for him, not for his brother. So we spent the rest of the night doing whatever it was that we were doing. The next day I went home from the stay over and decided somehow, some way I was going to get Diablo 2. At this point, my dad was laid off, and we did not have that great of a computer. Now, we didn't have a terrible computer. For the year 2000, we had a Pentium 2. Now, Pentium 2 is a good computer, but it's not a fantastic computer by the year 2000. It's okay. It can still run a lot of games, but not everything that you may or may not want to run. So I was very concerned that it wouldn't run it. And I knew my dad was laid off. I knew he didn't have a ton of money. So I decided to wait about 6 or 12 months, whatever it was going to take for him to get a job again. Eventually, that's exactly what happened. So now, I asked my father if he can buy the game for me. He says, no, we still don't have the money for it. I know I have a new job, we just don't have it. We're trying to catch up. I need to find a way to find some way to get Diablo 2. So, I think to myself, who could give me the game? Grandma. The only issue is no birthday or Christmas anytime soon, so I have to find a way to have her just give me the game. And I really didn't like asking people for favors or for just random stuff all the time like many other kids did, and I didn't really want to ask her, but I did because this was the one time where I genuinely wanted the game so badly that I could just not wait any longer. Luckily she said yes, and we made our way to Target. I ran to the register, had my mom pay for it because it was M-rated, obviously. At 14 they're not going to give it to me, so I run to the car, get in the car, cut it open, get the instruction book, and start immediately reading and analyzing the instruction book. And this is something that is really gone from today's games, is the instruction booklet. If you buy a PS4 game or an Xbox One game, they don't have those anymore for the most part. Anyway, I digress. It was a ton of fun. I enjoyed reading it and learning as much as I could from it on my way home. Finally, we arrive home. I give the box to my father, who takes out the jewel case with the discs in it, puts in the install disc, and he starts the install. Now, you have to keep in mind that this is the year 2000 with a Pentium 2 computer and a CD-ROM drive that is definitely not as fast as the CD-ROM drives we have now. This took forever to go through all 3 discs. It felt like an eternity waiting for this install to go all the way through. Finally, it was done. We put in the play disc, we start the game, and the opening cinematic starts up, and I'm just blown away. This was better than I could have ever imagined. I hadn't seen the opening cinematic because my friend's brother he was past that part already. All I saw was the actual gameplay. I didn't get to see the cinematic. And if you've played other Blizzard games, especially from this era, you know that the cinematics are always really, really good, and they make you want to play the game even more. Trust me, it did exactly that. It did its job. I fire up the game, I kill Andariel, go to Act 2, and I remember very clearly beating Act 2, killing Duriel. As he dies, he drops a unique mall. I hadn't seen a unique mall or any unique at that point. That was the first ever unique that I had found, and it turned out to be the Bone Snap Mall. The Bone Snap Mall in Classic, this is still Classic, mind you, single player. I hadn't seen open or closed battle.net just yet. This was fantastic. This weapon was the bee's knees of Classic Diablo 2. The character I was using at the time was, so let's take a guess. You know I was using a Bone Snap Mall. If you guessed Barbarian, you were correct. The Barbarian was my first character, and the Bone Snap Mall worked perfectly for him. I made it all the way through the game using this Barbarian and that Bone Snap Mall to beat the game. So once I beat the game, I really didn't have any interest in Nightmare or Hell, and I really doubt that I had a fundamental grasp of what it meant to go to Nightmare and Hell, and that there could be better, more interesting items. I very much doubt I understood that concept back then. So I decided instead I was going to go to openbattle.net. The problem with openbattle.net is I need to fire up my 56K modem, because in the year 2000, or 2001 at this point, we did not have cable internet or DSL or anything that was even remotely fast. So I'm stuck with 56K. And as soon as I try to log in, it wants to update. Updates, even just a few megabytes with a 56K modem, take forever. It disconnects, it tries to reconnect, it's a nightmare. And you have to listen to all those terrible 56K modem noises over and over again. If you're as old as me, you know what I'm talking about. And some of you are old enough to have had older modems than that, like 28.6K modems, I think it was, back in the day. I'm sorry you had to go through that, and I really am glad we're way past that now. Finally, I get it to update, and I log in. Join a public duel match, which is what I wanted to do. I had played Diablo 1 a ton, and dueling was my favorite thing to do. So I decided I was going to do that immediately. I get in, I find somebody relatively around my level, or maybe it wasn't, it doesn't matter. Because they had hacked items. They had completely customized hacked items, and destroyed everything that I cared about. My pride, my character, everything was just wrecked. And I didn't understand why I was getting so destroyed until they started to show me their items, and I realized that the items were not legit. They were items that they had created themselves using a program called Jamela or Hymela. I didn't know the name of the program though, and of course this went on for quite some time before I found out. Once I found out, however, I too did the same thing. Customized all of my items. I had so much customization on those items in openbattle.net, I couldn't even see the end of the list of all the different stats that each item had. That's how much I had. The resolution was pretty small, but that's just to give you a gist of how many custom item stats I had on there. And that was the first time I had cheated on Diablo 2, was with Hymela. So after doing this for however long I was doing it, I got fed up with openbattle.net, found it kind of boring. I wanted to go back to kind of like the original idea of the game, so I joined closedbattle.net. Knowing that I would have to start a new character, I chose a new class. Again, I'll let you guys guess which class. The Amazon. And I was not disappointed. The Amazon was a ton of fun. Even though I had to re-gear and re-level, because I was playing on closedbattle.net, that took way less time, and I was able to get a lot better gear than I was able to get before, due to the fact that it was online and playing with other people. Shortly after, the expansion was announced and released. This brought new items, new hacked items for closedbattle.net, believe it or not. Well, they may have been there before, but they first appeared to me anyway. We got 2 new classes, the Assassin and the Druid, with new quests and an entirely new act. This was fantastic. The expansion for Diablo 2 brought so much more content to Diablo 2. It's like a different game. If you play Classic and then you play expansion, you know what I'm talking about. They're not even the same thing at all, really. They are fundamentally, but when it comes down to the specifics, it's so different and so much fun. That summer, I pretty much stayed up the entire night, every night, playing it. Going so far as ignoring a girlfriend and staying up all night so I could play without interruption from my parents or the girlfriend. I didn't care about either of those two things. I didn't care about the parents, didn't care about the girlfriend. I just wanted to play Diablo 2 the entire summer, and that is exactly what I did. I was sweaty, but I was not yet a neckbeard because I could not grow facial hair. Okay, so shortly after that, school starts up again, and I make a new friend who invites me over to his house to play some Diablo 2. Hey, why not? Go to his place, and something's different about Diablo 2 when I'm playing it. I'm not getting disconnected, I'm not experiencing any desync, I'm not really having any problems that I normally have with my internet connection. And so I ask him, hey, what's the deal with your internet connection? He laughs and says, it's DSL. I had no idea what DSL was, I didn't really care. All I knew was DSL was way better, way more reliable, and way faster than my 56K modem was. Of course, now we know why it's so much better, and we also know that it's superior to 56K modems, but at the time I didn't really know that. Anyway, the next thing that happens is we get a realm down, and I had never had a realm down before because realm downs were a lot harder to get with 56K modems. They didn't really occur because when you get disconnected and then you reconnect, a lot of times it gives you a different IP address, if I remember correctly. So with DSL, it didn't really do that because it was a constant internet connection. It would just keep the same connection because you're not disconnecting from the internet, you're disconnecting from Battle.net, or it's forcing you to disconnect from Battle.net. We had no idea what the heck was going on. We had to wait all weekend for it to work again, and we were totally bummed out. In the end, though, I was very happy with DSL, very happy that I got to play like that. And of course, I wanted to play like that forever, but that was not to be. School goes through its course, and finally we get to another summer. This summer, my father and mother had divorced shortly before that summer had arrived, and I was to stay with my dad over the course of that particular summer. This was 2003. I took our old PC, which my parents had given me as they both upgraded, the Pentium 2 Diablo 2 PC, as I will call it. This was the in-style PC for me for that summer. I get to my father's, there's no internet. So now I have to try to find a way to convince him to get internet. Luckily enough, he did have other things to do. As I said, my dad likes to play, well, I may not have said it earlier, but my dad really likes to play games. He still does. And so he had an original Xbox. We played Ghost Recon and Halo for quite some time. And let me tell you, that was a good summer. Ghost Recon, Halo, and Diablo 2 is really good, fun times, I'll tell you what. Finally, we're watching the Iraq War unfold and just the horrific images and all of this stuff going on. A commercial comes up for cable internet. So this is my moment to try to convince him to get internet. Before I could convince him to do so, he was already calling, trying to get it himself. As a gamer, he wanted the internet too, therefore I didn't even have to convince him. All I had to do before was probably just tell him. I just didn't think of it beforehand. When he saw the commercial, that was it. The internet was on its way. The summer was going to heat up even more. It took about a day or two for the installation, the cable modem, all that stuff to get installed, working correctly, and I could hardly wait. I knew it was in store for us, and my dad didn't. What he didn't know is I was going to hog the internet the whole time, and he probably wasn't going to get to use it very much. Of course, he had to go to work and other things as well. So while he was at work, a lot of times I got to play, or at night, like I was doing the previous summer, of course. This is peak Diablo 2 for me, version 1.09. I didn't play during 108 as much due to the fact that, number one, I was in school, and also because I was on a 56K modem, so I didn't like 1.08 as much as I liked 1.09. 1.09, my favorite patch of all time. It still had 1.08 items in abundance. You could still get hacked items. You could still use map hack, mouse pads, I think it was, map hack. Awesome. Amazingly fun time with all that craziness going on. In my opinion, there was never a better time to play Diablo 2 than during that particular patch. So, obviously, after that summer gets done, I'm right around 17 years old, going into my senior year in high school. I stopped playing Diablo 2 as much, start getting a job, start doing other things that take up a lot more of my time. So I kind of stopped playing Diablo 2 every now and then I come back to it, play a little bit, make sure my characters don't get deleted, things of that nature. Eventually I just stop, and I don't start playing again until 1.13D, almost 1.14D. Let's see. No, it was 1.13C, then it was D, then it went to 1.4, etc. So played all the way from 1.13C or D all the way up. And I haven't stopped since, obviously, since we're still here talking about it and showing you all these videos and playing and all that good stuff. So I hope you guys don't mind this really long retrospective and my, I guess, perspective on Diablo 2 and how much I loved it and how much I enjoy playing it. And I genuinely do think that it is the best game of all time. It's the GOAT of PC games, at least for me. So I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please leave me a like and subscribe as always. Happy anniversary, and get back to Diablo 2.